down here. Oh, he was a good dancer. Yes, he was.
I don't know about you, Calvin, but the air feels a little thin up here, and Lyon Mountain feels a little cool, too. What is this, the 19th of June, 2013? We're at a place we've been before, because we like the old train station that's 100 years old this year, right, in Lyon Mountain?
Lyon Mountain, and it was 32 degrees here this morning.
Come on.
That's what I was told. That person.
See, I could have gone all day without hearing that, but I want the world to know that we're a hardy bunch, Bill Chase. How are you doing?
Good. How are you, Mr. Little?
I'm doing great. This would be our fourth program at the wonderful Friends of Lyon Mountain Mining and Railroad Museum. We've loved this town ever since I came up here in 1961. Actually, I came over these mountains long before that and helping to build Plattsburgh Air Force Base.
Okay, in 61, I was 4 years old.
Were you?
Yeah.
You could probably throw a baseball then.
Probably.
So now you're the president up here.
Yeah, the president of the Lyon Mountain Mining and Railroad Museum. Just took over this year.
That's great. And you know, it's hard to believe that the Friends have had this place for 13 years now.
Yeah, you probably know the history better than I do.
Oh, not at all. Only because I've been up here to do a couple of shows. Calvin did the last show without me. I was probably out of town or couldn't make it or something that day, but we've enjoyed it. For any people who are in this area, who are watching our show, Our Little Corner, they know about the history of this area. They love the mining and railroad history. This is the old D&H Railroad Station. As I said, 100 years old, dating back to 2003. I can just hear the trains coming, watch the old steam going. And somebody sent me an email this morning saying, boy, it must have been a struggle for the train to get up the mountain there. Those old steam trains could pull your house behind them with no problem at all.
It was a sort of a long trip, though. They sort of went a roundabout way to get here, didn't they?
They certainly did. They certainly did. So tell me, first of all, how you got involved with all this, Bill.
How I got involved? Well, I'm retired from the Department of Corrections, and
isn't everybody?
now a town councilman, and I had some free time, and they needed a president. They approached me, and I took over. My expertise is probably more into helping them raise some money and that type of thing. We had a breakfast on Mother's Day and served over 250 people down at
Isn't that wonderful?
the Legion here.
You know, that's how little towns do it. Yeah, fortunately, this is on the historic records list. And so a few grants are available every now and again, but a lot of the money comes from just what you said, events that happen all year long that the Friends of the museum put on. And who doesn't like a good breakfast or a good dinner or a good spaghetti supper?
Right, on August 17th of this year, we're having a dinner down at the American Legion. I believe it's a chicken dinner.
Chicken's good.
That's Saturday from 4 to 6:30. And we've got some raffle tickets we're selling, and Calvin always, every time I run into Calvin, he's prepared to buy a ticket from
somebody me. Already won the big, what's that called up there? Up north?
Queen of Hearts.
Oh yeah, Queen of Hearts. Well, that raffle doesn't take place till September, so you got a lot of time to buy tickets, right?
Right, and after you get done with me, I gotta run home and make sure I sell Calvin $5 worth.
It's the least you can do. Now, you're involved in everything else up here. You were born and bred up here, right?
Yep, born in '57 and lived here most of my life.
God, I am old enough to be his father by a long shot, yeah.
I went to California for a few years and came back, worked for the Department of Corrections for 26 years, and I lived here all my life.
Did you ever have the inclination to move away for longer? You went to California for how long?
Was gone from 80 to 85 in California and a stop in Minnesota.
Oh, you did stop in
I stopped in Minnesota for a year.
And just came back and decided this was it.
Yeah, never looked back.
You know, hometowns are wonderful, and we spend a lot of time talking about it, Calvin and I, going to all the little towns around the North Country, especially when they have their anniversaries, 50, 100, 200, 250 years, and we love to do it. Lyon Mountain is special for the people who live here, and it's also special for the people who don't live here, who watch this show and are maybe inspired to come and stop in and check out this wonderful museum, which was closed for the winter and opened just earlier this month around this, 2nd of June or
Yeah, the
so?
1st and 2nd of June was a Saturday and a Sunday. They had the opening weekend in collaboration with all the museums in Clinton County.
Oh, yeah, wasn't that great? And it's open Wednesdays and,
Wednesdays and Saturdays from
Saturdays.
10 to 2
there you go, until the
till
Until the
October.
weekend before Columbus Day.
I think,
Or
no,
whatever
I think they picked the date. I think it's October 13th, to tell you the
Oh, my
truth.
goodness, I forget.
Columbus Day.
That's close enough.
Yeah.
And I think it is the weekend before Columbus Day that it finally closes for the season. If the information on the internet is correct. I
Okay.
stuffed my brain with information before I come up here, though. So how big a group do you have among your friends of the museum? How big a group?
Membership wise?
Yeah.
Oh, you've asked me a question that,
Well, how about
think it's-
the people who work here on a regular basis?
oh, there's probably anywhere from a couple dozen at least,
Is there?
yes.
And there's always a nucleus of people who work harder than others, and I know since you're on camera, you have to say that you work harder than all the others combined.
No, I wouldn't say that. I think they work harder than I do. Like
Right.
like I said, I've just come on board and I'm actually learning, I'm in the learning process of, the way the place operates and everything.
Museums operate via membership, and you can either get a one-year membership,
Or you can get a lifetime
or you
membership.
can get just shell out $500 and you got one, right?
Right, yeah, and then you get your name on a plaque.
Nothing to it. But membership helps, and if people have, what is it, $15 for the
Yeah,
one-year membership?
15 bucks, yeah, and I believe the total is above, it's close to 150 members.
Is it really?
Yeah.
That's wonderful. This, for those who haven't been here, bring your kids, because who doesn't like trains and railroad museums and old train stations? And Calvin and I have been privileged to visit quite a few. Some are just now getting underway toward rehab. Some projects started and kind of got hung up in the process. But this one is beautiful, and it required an awful lot of work, because I remember what the station looked like before 2000.
Oh, yes, well, it used to be the post office, and there actually used to be a bar on the backside of this too.
But like, the outside is done, the outside is beautiful, it's easy to find on the Standish Road, just not even a half a mile outside of the hamlet of Lyon Mountain, right?
Right, yeah, it's just off 374, just up the road from the local convenience store.
You can sneak up Saranac Street, you can come up the Standish Road.
Right.
An awful lot of history here for mining and for railroads, but also for baseball and other sports, and that's primarily why we're here today. How did this exhibit get started?
Well, it's a changeover from what they had in this room last year, and it was just something that, part of the planning of, to keep the museum moving along and tell the whole history of everything. I mean, sports is a big part of this town, and baseball being one of the biggest parts.
It still is.
It still is.
Has been since they first made baseballs, I'll tell you that.
Well, according to the information I've got, baseball started in this town in 1877.
Can you believe it?
Town team baseball. And at one time, I think they even might have had 2 or 3 teams playing
Oh, sure.
against each other type of thing.
And those people who have any connection at all with our portion of the North Country will recognize some of the names we're going to mention today. Sadly, a lot of those people have already gone to their great rewards. But some people who play baseball and other sports up here are still very much with us, and you still have a lot of sports going on in Lyon Mountain right now in 2013, don't you, Bill?
Yes, we do. Unfortunately, though, it's sad to report that there's no youth program, no youth softball or baseball this summer.
You could get that started.
Well, we're working on that.
Yeah.
It's the first time in a long time.
It should happen, it should be. Every small town should have them.
Well, it's just unfortunately, like you said, some of the people that have been here that, established all that and moved on, and, they're just that people that are here now with kids, they're new. They're not originally from the area, so we gotta rebuild right now.
Yeah, we need volunteers, you and you and you.
Yeah.
Get people going. Anybody interested in doing that, should they get a hold of you, or who should they get a hold of?
Yeah, they can get a hold of me or get a hold of any town board member for the town of Dannemora, because that's the jurisdiction we fall under here in Lyon Mountain. We're in the town of Dannemora.
Well, I hope they do. And before we begin our interviews about sports in the mountains, I want to invite people who really care about history to become members of this museum. And what would be the best way to do that?
Well, you can contact me. My home phone is 425-0128 or
518 prefix.
518, yep, or actually stop by here any Wednesday or Saturday from 10 to 2. You can sign up for a membership. Another way would be to contact Rita Quetchen, but unfortunately, I don't have her phone number off the top of my head.
Well, that's perfectly all right. I'll bet you if they're interested, they can find her.
Yeah, or Claire Kowalski. Claire is actually my first cousin, and her home phone number is 735. My old one used to be 4517. She's 4571.
I don't know how you remember that stuff. My son Dale is the one who remembers all the numbers and the birth dates in our family. Anyway, they can get a hold of you. They can get a membership. We want them to stop in sometime this summer.
Yes,
Because
the more the merrier.
The summer is starting officially in a couple of days, and if it was 32 degrees up here in the high country this morning, it's a good thing I didn't have my poor little bean plant sticking through the ground up here, I'll tell you that. But anyway, we're a hardy bunch, and we're delighted to be here, and we're going to have so much fun talking about sports in the mountains. What do you say?
Yeah, we're gonna. I've got some people here that
They're telling stories even before we get the
Right.
microphones over there, boy. We're getting them tuned up.
I got Bill Durnan and his wife Shirley. I got Ron Chase. I've got Leon Badger and Earl Kuchar.
There's names for you.
Then there's actually Frenchie Siskavich and Ken Davies. They're working here today, actually volunteers, and they possibly can contribute, hunting camp wise, ice fishing wise, all those type of different things that actually go on around here in Lyon Mountain and the surrounding area.
I'll tell you, what's the first thing I saw besides you when I walked in here today? Look over here in the corner, and you'll see a device made out of a barrel stave and a couple of 2x4s and a bracket and a seat, and we called them skippers. You probably never rode one in your life.
No,
You're just a young child.
No, I never did, I can say that.
That was a great mode of transportation back when I was a kid in the North Country and elsewhere, and I don't have one anymore, but that is a gem, and that's probably an old one over there too. They go fast, a little wax on the bottom of that barrel stave, and you can go flying down Lyon Mountain, I'll tell you that.
Or the sand pile.
Oh, the sand pile too, yes.
That's probably what they did.
All right. What do you say we get this show underway, okay?
Sounds good to me.
All right. What a group we got here. We didn't bring our baseball gloves, but we could horrify anybody if we had them here today, right? Just give me a bat and ball and watch me.
But there's nobody here that could catch it.
No, I'd be breaking windows and
Down breaking your fingers.
Yeah, that too. I got a few broken fingers from catching foul tips behind the plate, I guarantee you that. All right, first thing we're going to do is get everybody's name, and then we're going to chat. Who are you?
Leon Badger.
Leon. Boy, there's a name. Leon Badger. And?
Bill Vernon.
Hey, Bill. How the heck are you?
Too early to tell.
Yeah, it is too early to tell. It's only 10:30. You should still be in bed. And?
Ron Chase Sr.
Hey, Ronnie.
Earl Kuchar.
We know who you are.
Shirley Durnan.
Shirley.
I wasn't Chase.
Yeah, but she kind of snuck away from her husband over here. There might be a reason for that, and maybe we shouldn't get into it at all here today.
She's not very big, but she's quick.
Oh, really? Maybe I'll tell that to my wife when I get home today. She'll chase me again. Oh, she chases me till I catch her.
Yeah?
You know how that goes.
And it's your fault.
Yeah. I'm so happy to be in this room and to see how neat this display is. We got all the sports right around the room, baseball, basketball, winter sports, hunting camps, and things behind me. Museums often do that. They change their displays once in a while, and you could not run a museum involving the history of Lyon Mountain unless you talked about sports. And everyone here has been involved in one way or another in sports. What was your big game?
Baseball.
Baseball?
Yeah, played
Other members of your family?
Bill Badger.
Billy, goodness, one of the best ball players that ever walked. So when did you start? As a little kid?
I started when I was a little guy. I played until I was 39 years old.
Now he's a big guy.
Now I'm a big guy.
I think I was born a big guy. I don't know how much I weighed when I was born, but I know my first thing my mother said was put him back.
Put him back.
Yeah. What is this we got here? So anyway, just little, maybe what, 6, 7 years old, 8 years old?
Yeah, 5, 6, 7 years old, yeah.
Really? Why did you start playing ball? It was just the thing to do?
Well, no, because I went and watched Saranac play ball, and I lived in Saranac, and I started playing ball. And I was catching all them big guys, and they would throw the ball, and they knocked me down. I was so small.
You know, that's what a lot of there were teams and town teams, but kids teams with all ages. 7, 8 years old, 14, 15 years old.
Right.
And you better stand up or go home.
Yeah, you're right.
You know, that's the way it was
right.
back in those days.
And don't strike out. No.
Oh, you mean somebody might holler at you? Oh, so what position did you play mostly?
Second base.
Did you?
Yeah.
Really enjoyed it?
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Did you play for the same team all those years?
All except one year when Dan Moore didn't have a team and played for Cherubusco.
No kidding.
Yeah, one year.
Of course, everybody here has probably seen or heard of Bob Garrow, our dear friend Bob Garrow, who's Mr. Baseball, if you will, and every other sport imaginable in the North Country, and his wonderful book with all those pictures in it of all the old town teams and everything else here in Lyon Mountain. I tell you, I can't remember the first baseball game I watched here in Lyon Mountain, but it was over probably 50, 60 years ago. Baseball started here in Lyon Mountain
Right.
long before any of us was born, I guess.
You're right. I agree on
Way
that.
back in the 1800s. So what memories do you have of starting out playing ball?
Me?
Yeah, you. That's where the microphone is,
Well-
right here at the end of my finger. As a little kid?
As a little kid, yeah. Well, I lived in Standish. You had to be good to play.
You probably lived
right.
lived in a log house like Abraham Lincoln.
Not quite, but
what?
there were a lot of them surrounded me.
There were. People don't know, on the Standish Road, all out of Lyon Mountain, all the way up the road, in the old days, those old mining homes were all logged. You go up there today,
And you still find a couple of them.
but a lot of the houses up there are just log houses covered with regular siding. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Aha. So, Standish,
Yeah.
they had ball teams.
Yeah, way before my time. I don't remember Standish having a team that, they always competed with the miners, Lyon Mountain.
Well, the most famous name connected with Lyon Mountain is the Lyon Mountain Miners,
Yeah.
which still exist today. See the hat right there? LM. Doesn't call for little man. It means Lyon Mountain, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, I bet it pleases you that they made this museum here.
Oh, yeah.
It's good. He's a man of a few words. Yep. Who was the famous actor? Every time they did an interview and asked him a big long question, he said, "Yep, yeah, it was Cooper. That's right. Yep." All right. Tell us about your history with sports.
I started playing baseball when I was a little kid. And I played for John Hamilton.
Oh my.
I played in the St. Lawrence Valley Baseball League, and I played in the Champlain Valley Baseball League. I had the highest batting average And Lyon Mountain Miners, I batted 400.
Come on.
I got a trophy in my car right now. I can go get it and show you.
You brought the trophy.
That was back in 1965.
Was it really?
Bill Durnan, I voted for him twice. We had a meeting down in the Legion, down in the basement in the Legion, and all the ball players voted. And I voted twice for Bill Durnan. He beat me out as MVP. And I was mad at myself because I voted for him.
Oh, you're supposed to vote for yourself.
He deserved it. He was getting old.
You know, I'll tell you the truth. We remember a few hundred batting averages as young kids, I do, growing up in the 40s and 50s. How often has anybody seen a 400 batting average these days?
I got one. Not now.
I'm not
you know,
talking
you know
you.
why?
We know you're a star.
You know why they don't? Because they got aluminum bats. Anybody can hit a ball with aluminum bat.
You know.
Take that wooden bat over there, see what you can do with it.
I don't
There's a
even,
difference.
I don't know about you guys, and I don't take anything away from the modern game of baseball. I don't even like the sound
Oh my God.
of the bat hitting the ball. Do you?
No.
There is nothing. Of course, I've been a Yankee fan since I was a little guy with the old Mel Allen days on the radio, right? And there's nothing like that sound of they call it the crack of the bat. Mm-hmm. When you hit it on the sweet spot,
In the sweet spot.
and you hear going, it's out of here.
Right.
Behind glass.
Oh, you got that too. Take a sip and hit the ball over the plate.
There you go.
So you played for how many years?
Oh my, probably 40 years.
Did you really? So you played well into your
I played well. Yeah.
your adult years.
I lost 2 years being in the military.
A lot of people play ball, when they're 30, 40 now. It's slow pitch softball guys who are pretty old and don't feel like running that fast. Play slow pitch softball, and it's a great game in the North Country. I don't know, do they have slow pitch teams here in Lyon Mountain?
No, not Lyon
West
Mountain.
Plattsburgh, I know.
Yeah.
I played at the Legion up there for a long time.
They got them in Chattagay
Chattagay, they do.
on the Limited Arc.
Yeah. I got.
I'm over in Coyote too, I think, Sam Lassery's outfit.
I love it. I still got my uniform from the old Plattsburgh Aces
Wow.
McGee's team, and those pants wouldn't fit on my right toe anymore. All right, it's your turn. I know you were.
Well, I heard Ronnie say he won the most valuable player and he had a 400 average in 1965. Well, I was in the service in 1965, that's why you won.
We got one story's got a cop. One story's got a cop.
That's not right.
It sounds like we got a peanut gallery here. We got lots of people cheering. But
I had to give you that
give us a
one.
little history, my friend.
Well, I was born in Dannemora, lived there all my life, 60 years, but I started playing ball when I was just a little tot, and I used to go down to the playground, and I remember this so well. I'd stand on the sidelines, and of course they'd always pick the better ball players to play, and I'd sit there and I'd just wait for my turn, and I waited for almost 2 years before I got to play. I'd stand on the sidelines and wait for them to choose me. They used to choose up with a bat and all that crazy stuff.
Always.
And I can remember going out and they put me behind the plate. Of course, it didn't matter because you couldn't steal or didn't. So they put me behind the plate and I couldn't hit. I was only that high. But I remember that so well, and I was so proud to go home and say I had played.
Isn't that great?
And then as the years went by, I grew a little bit, and I got to be 14 years old and a freshman in high school. And a guy by the name of Bernie Momont was playing with Cadyville at the time, and he broke his leg. And George Kurz called me up, and he said, Earl, he said, we need a catcher. Can you come down and catch this Sunday? Bernie broke his leg. And that's how I got started playing in the league.
George Kurz. I mean, these names are all bringing back
so
many. What a
the old
guy.
Cadyville team, I can name them all. Bobby Bouye played third base, Maynard Duquette shortstop, Doug Bullis second base, George Kurz first base, left field Billy Badger, center field Virgil Voltraw, I remember all those guys.
Talk about the who's who in the baseball business and,
Benny John.
oh, God.
Old Benny.
Oh, we were just talking about him at my house the other day.
Old Benny John.
Oh, my goodness.
You talk about playing with some baseball teams. I played with Cadyville, started out with them. I went to Morrisonville.
Yeah.
And then I went to Clayburg. They had a team up in Clayburg.
I seen a fight up there.
And then I went to Dannemora.
No
Finally,
kidding.
Dannemora had a team, so I went back to my hometown, Dannemora. I played with them a few years. Then I went to service, and I went to Greenhaven for the middle 60s. I lost 5-6 years. 1968, I came back, and I went to play for Lyon Mountain. Dannemora didn't have a team, and I played with Lyon Mountain for 10 years.
Did you really?
Yep, and I played third base for Lyon
Oh,
Mountain.
my God.
Billy Durnan retired. I took his place.
Yeah.
Bill Durnan retired, and I went to third base. And I played there, well, you want to hear a good one? Lyon Mountain.
Yes, that's what I'm here for.
Lyon Mountain had a team, and I'm going to tell you something. There was 5 or 6 catchers, and I can name them. There was Jerry Jutman, Carly Rounds, Joe Staves, Allie Chase, Tommy Kowalewski, and myself. There was 6 players on the team starting that were catchers. They were all catchers, so
All
they didn't
good
have...
catchers.
Huh?
All good catchers.
We had a catching team. That's a true story.
Kind
huh?
of rare.
Yeah, it's very rare. Six guys
I
playing.
know some professional teams that are a little short on the
Not this,
on the
not
catching
Lyon Mountain that
position.
year.
Isn't that amazing?
Yep, that was a big year for Lyon Mountain. I love to play with Lyon Mountain, my God. And it was, the slogan was no beer, no ball.
That's perfect. I kind of like that myself.
That was the slogan back then for the minors,
You know,
yeah.
the best part of it is there were good crowds for ball games.
They
Picnics,
fill the
little kids,
stands.
big kids, old
I was just talking with
great-grandparents.
Shirley about the crowds we used to get, and she's got pictures in the 70s with the grandstands totally filled.
Yeah.
And cars all the way around the outside.
ballpark, yeah.
All the way around the park. She said she's got pictures of them. So she's gonna bring them down, I assume, to the museum. But that's great. You know, Lyon Mountain was always a baseball team. Dannemora, they'd have one year, 2 years, and then they'd quit, and you'd have to go somewhere else and play, you know. So I played maybe 6 different teams in the 30 years I played. Played till I was 40 years old.
Did you
know.
really?
I quit. The last 2 years I played with Dannemora. I caught too. I was catching for Dannemora.
Oh, come on.
I caught for Dannemora. You know.
Isn't that
In
amazing?
my last 2 years. But my arms started to go, my eyes started to go, the back started to go.
You know,
Time to quit.
I know a lot of former athletes. Most of them, of course, are far younger than I am, but there aren't very many of them that don't say, "Oh, it still hurts right here. I can't roll over at night. My arm." Any aches and pains?
I remember a ball game that we were playing up in Mineville. We used to play for what, Republic Steel, ain't Bill? For the trophy? Yeah. And Bob Graham was pitching. And Mike Schuster, I got up to bat, I was the leadoff man. He threw 3 by me, and Mike Schuster was next. He said, "What's he got, Ron?" He says, "He struck you out, and you very seldom strike out." I said, "I don't know, that's all I heard was the wind." He's the best pitcher I ever faced in my life, Bob Graham.
No kidding.
Yes, sir.
People don't realize it. Even back in those days, there were a lot of people in these towns that were throwing over 90 miles an hour.
Oh, yeah.
Wayne Ano.
Oh, there's another.
I can
name.
remember Wayne Ano. We were playing in Plattsburgh, I think it was, and Billy Badger was up, and Wayne Ano hit him in the head with a pitch. I mean, it had to be 95 miles an hour. And a helmet, I was up next. I can remember this so clearly. I was batting next, and it shattered into hundreds of pieces. I mean, I don't know how Billy Badger's living today, because that thing just hit, it was a bomb. It was a bomb, I'm telling you. Boy, could he throw. He could throw a baseball. Wayne Ano.
You didn't, there aren't very many people that ever played ball that didn't get hit with a pitch sometimes. And sometimes it was even on purpose.
I was too fast.
Oh, you were? Yeah. You were like Ichiro. You could fall on the ground and jump right up again, huh? Well, you know, now the discussion, here we are in 2013. Go ahead.
I got a story about Bill. I was
Right,
catching.
you don't
I was catching in Lyon Mountain, and Bill was calling balls and strikes behind the plate. And pitch came in, and I said, gee! Bill says,
You didn't say, gee, come on.
don't turn around. He says, you can say anything you want, but don't turn around.
Those guys were tough.
Oh, yeah.
Those guys
And I
were
said, oh, my God. So I said, I never said another word after that. Bill he cured me.
Umpire has to have control of the game, you know that, right?
I umpire now.
Oh, you still do?
Yeah.
Isn't it great? Stay in shape if you can. Shirley, come on over.
Have Bill tell you the
Sit
story.
down there a minute.
Have Bill tell you the story
Go ahead.
about when he umpired the championship game between Lyon Mountain and Peru at Peru. They couldn't get any umpires. Nobody wanted to umpire that game. So anyways, they called Bill, and sure enough, Bill volunteered. He went and umpired. Let him finish
All right,
telling
we
you.
got to hear this story.
Well, I did that under duress.
Well, that's a good word. I've done a lot of things under duress in my lifetime. A lot of things under duress.
Bill, tell him what happened.
Tell what happened that day.
Tommy Kowalski.
Oh,
Oh, the memory banks are churning.
I want to get it right, you know. I
Oh,
don't
get
want
it
to inject something that ain't there.
Who's going to argue with you if you lie a little bit?
No.
Come on.
You're talking about that playoff game, Shirley?
Yeah,
Championship game.
championship.
Lyon Mountain and Peru
Catch your box.
are playing for the championship. They can't, they found one umpire and they needed two. Walt Vanderhoof was one, and
Oh, my gosh.
I was there. I wasn't there. I was in Lyon Mountain, and the phone rings, and it's Elmer Dupree, my arch enemy, and
I love it.
he wants me to come and umpire. I said, "Why? Are you crazy?" I said, "I live in Lyon Mountain. Are you nuts?" He said, "I don't care." He said, "I don't care if you bring your indicator and umpire this game." So, and then I talked to Walt Vanderhoof. He said, come on. Yeah. Of course, he didn't say it too loud. He said, you ain't got to be afraid of these guys. He didn't say it very loud. So anyway, I went. And the game was it 1-0?
It was close, yes, yes.
Well, anyway, Lyon Mountain beat Peru 1-0. And it was it Elmer Dupree, well, not Protein, Elmer played a run. And it was a good team. They beat us 2-1. And, well, oh yeah, Big Tom is a player, and
He was a catcher, right?
it was Tom. He was catching. So they turned the squeeze on. That was one of the plays that culminated on that particular day. They turned the squeeze on, and who got in the way of the ball, Shirley?
Tom Kowalski, the pitcher threw the ball. Tom Kowalski reaches out and gets the pitch, and the runner from third is coming in, and Tom tagged him, and what did you say?
He cheated.
This is our game.
He balked. Catcher's balk. He balked.
The runner safe and called it a catcher's balk.
Right.
You
And
remember
that
that?
was the ball game,
You better
yes.
tell a story you know better than I do.
The reason I know it, the family, myself and my 4 kids didn't talk to you for a month. And he drove home alone.
That's almost TMI, too much information, huh?
I did, yeah, I did. It was a catcher's balk.
What does that mean? I never saw a catcher's balk.
He
You probably never heard it even.
Where'd you play? You play in Plattsburgh?
Yeah, no. I think Plattsburgh wasn't invented yet when I played. So what's
Who's
a
the catcher's balk?
What is it?
If the catcher interferes with.
Oh, yeah.
All right, with the guy catching the ball.
Right.
You call a balk on the catcher.
But anyways, Peru won, 2-1.
That was the winning run on
And we
third.
go home, and Tom Kowalski calls Bill and tells him, what did Tom say to you? We never did that in the big leagues, or?
No, this happened when I called the balk on him for doing that, he picks up his helmet and he threw it in a left field.
Oh, really?
No, you couldn't do it, it's in the game's over. Right? And he knew it. So he had a few choice words to say. And one of them were, he said, I've done this 100 times in the pros. Which is probably true. But he said, you're in the bushes today, bub. That's a box.
I love it. I love it.
And he comes over and, of course, he'd go up next door to me.
Yeah.
But I didn't make any difference in the ball game.
Oh, never makes any difference in the ballgame. Ronnie, has this thing fallen off the shelf a few times?
Yes. That's old.
I knew you'd send her out in the car for that. Of course, it's an antique now, right?
Yeah, you'd better believe
Not
it.
that you are, but
I beat Earl Kuchar out.
oh my good.
Yeah, I'm proud of that.
That is pretty neat.
That's a
1965.
wooden bat. St. Lawrence Valley League.
Oh my goodness. Where was that St. Lawrence Valley League based? Where'd they play their home games?
We played our home games were here in Lyon Mountain.
Yeah.
And then Malone had a team. What was it, Bill? Buster Mariah?
Ruston, Moira,
Brazier Falls.
And there was, Brockville, Canada played.
Ontario.
And Ontario, and there was another team
What
in the league.
about
from-
Westville? Was it Westville?
There was another team from Canada that played. Remember the St. Lawrence, St. Lawrence College, they had.
Mudcat.
I can't
What was
remember
that-
the name of the
what was
team.
that other
now.
Canadian team that
Huntington,
played?
no?
Ontario.
Yeah, Brockville.
Yeah, we got Brockville.
Yeah.
Was there another
They were
one?
all college kids from St. Lawrence.
Yeah.
They were good, eh?
Oh, no kidding.
They paid them and Alcoa had a team. They paid the kids to be
The
managers.
Expos.
Yep.
Remember? We played the Burlington Expos.
No kidding.
Right?
Oh, we're getting the stories. Wait a minute. Who's got the trophy? I want to see it.
Billy, you want to see
Give me
a
the trophy, Billy.
It's a hockey trophy.
The hockey's good. It's time we
Not
changed.
hockey, though.
It's time we got the puck out of here anyway, right?
Wow, you got that on tape, Calvin?
That's the third annual Whistle Stop Hockey Tournament. Where'd this come from?
1988.
Okay, I can hear you.
Who was it presented to?
Well, in 88, I'm working at Clinton Correctional. I had nothing to do with it.
Oh, isn't that amazing? Who gave you this tournament? Second place, anyway. I don't know. Okay, set this over there. I thought there was a big story connected with it. He's bringing in the big stuff here.
You know, I can excuse myself. Maybe Ken Davies would like to have a word or two.
Well, get him over here. You can sit here. We got room for everybody.
No words.
Come on, Ken.
How are you, Kenneth?
I remember the time, Ken, I remember the time in high school, you and Bill Durnan made a bet.
Bill Durnan?
You and Bill Durnan made a bet.
Is Bill Durnan still living?
Yeah. You were coaching,
Get over here, Kenny. I want to talk to you. Come here. Come here.
you were coaching Saranac High
I
School.
want to sit down among all these Yankees.
Get over here.
You're going to lose a doubleheader today.
If they do, there's going to be a lot of beer drunk at my house, I'll tell you that.
Red Sox won a doubleheader yesterday.
They did. Sit down, young man.
And Davies, you're a Red Sox fan?
I just assumed they'd win, yeah.
I guess that means you're a fan. Kenneth, I haven't seen you in a long time. You're looking good.
You having trouble with your eyes?
Yes, I am, and my hearing too, so we have to speak up at our age.
Yeah.
Well, what do you think of all this? Have we told any lies yet here today?
I found one truth.
Oh, you said that one truth?
One truth. They said Peru won, but I didn't believe that either.
Oh, here we go.
Not if they played Lyon Mountain.
Isn't that amazing?
Peru didn't win.
Come on, we need some stories. Kenny, we
I
need
don't
some.
have any stories.
Yes, you do.
Most of my stories are about Bill Durnan, and I don't want to tell them now.
You want to wait till we shut the camera off, right?
Yes.
Bill, remember that time you and him bet in a high school game?
I hit, what did I do?
And you had to pay him, take Shirley and Bill out for a steak dinner
I did, for what?
because you lost the bet.
What bet was that?
High school, Lyon Mountain against Saranac for the championship in high school.
Oh, yeah, of course, I bet for Saranac.
Yeah, you were the
Because I was
coach.
coaching.
And you lost. Bill LaPlante was pitching.
Yeah, I brought him to McDonald's, remember?
Oh, did you really? Went to Mickey D's for the most expensive hamburger they could buy?
Yeah, he got a double burger.
Oh, he got a double? I should have known that.
Lyon Mountain beat you, Myron Benjamin pinch hit and hit a double.
Oh, yeah?
Yes, sir, I remember
You
that.
can. What was the score?
4-3.
What?
And Bill LaPlante wore a 13 spike. Man, he had big shoes.
You know, I'm so glad to come up here with the camera today, because these stories have to be told. You've never written any of this stuff down, have you?
No, I never did, but like my batting average and stuff, each year that I tell it, it gets more and better and better.
That's gotta be,
Yeah.
you know? It's
Yeah,
gotta
but
be.
this is the truth.
As long as it doesn't go
That's the
over
truth.
400, because we can't,
What is that?
yeah, what is that? Yeah.
Batting champion.
Yeah.
You had that made.
Hey, that's good, I like that.
Does anybody here ever remember a left-handed catcher in Lyon Mountain? No. Nope. I never played ball in Lyon Mountain, and I was never a very good ball player, but I still have my left-handed catcher's mitt from Legion Baseball
You do?
in the
Oh,
early 50s.
Bill tried both hands, he wasn't any good at either one.
My cat, he got you.
You have the left-hand catcher's mitt?
I still have one. I still got mine.
That's
Probably came, probably came from Sears and Roebuck.
Amazing they ever made.
I think I held the record too for hitting more batters in the head trying to throw to second base.
There you go.
You know, somehow my brother saved that catcher's mitt and sent it to me about 20 years ago.
My cousin, Rusty Wilson was pitching for Lyon Mountain.
Oh, my.
Kylie Rounds was catching.
Oh.
And somebody was stealing second base, and of course Rusty turned around, he threw the pitch, and he turned around and put his head to
Facing the
the back
catcher.
of, and Kylie threw a bullet and hit him right behind the ear, knocked him silly, knocked him right out.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, I'll never forget
Those were
that.
the days. Anybody else got any really good baseball stories here that we ought to get on tape? We may have to come back and do chapters 2 and 3.
I faced Eddie Ashley.
Really?
Yes.
Tell me.
Well, he struck me out.
That was a short story.
The old fart.
Oh, my goodness.
Man, he was good though.
Isn't that amazing?
That's when I used to play for Katie'ville town team because I couldn't make the minors.
You know, if we don't stress another thing while we're here today, it's how good some of these teams were.
Oh, absolutely.
And how even now, all these years later, we're still talking about these teams because they were outstanding. And I'd put some of those teams against any team in this area today.
Well, you take that Katie'ville team that I first played for, Bobby Bouye at third base.
Shine, bro.
You know, Shine, bro.
Yeah.
Was Larry Storrs playing?
Larry Storrs, Virgil Votra, Billy Badger,
Muggsy Fago?
Muggsy played,
Yeah.
George Kurz. Those guys were some ball players.
Did Roger play?
Martin Ode, you remember Martin Ode, left-handed hitter? Oh, could he hit?
You remember Cheese Rock from Ortonville?
You know, and while we have a moment here, whether we're religious or not, I think it'd be because Cheese Rock's a dear friend of
Yeah,
mine.
oh, yeah.
His legs are not in very good shape right
They
now.
could, he throw fast.
But he was a ball player. And so if you're going to church next weekend, you might want to say a little prayer for old Cheeser.
yeah, do
He's just such a good guy and a good friend.
What about his legs?
Oh, he's just giving out
Yeah,
on it.
like mine, yeah.
Yeah,
Like a lot of them.
after a while, you know, the pins
Yeah.
kind of go sometimes.
One of the best pitchers in the North Country was Lefty Tessier.
Of course.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Ellenberg.
now you're getting,
Oh, from,
no,
oh,
he went to
Oh, yeah, I
OLV.
was thinking baseball. Correct.
Now, what, just
It
what,
wasn't so bad either.
Lefty Tessier, as a matter of fact, we've interviewed him in his later years, because Lefty Tessier's my age, and he played ball up here when I was playing ball down in Moira. And he graduated from high school in 1955, and so did I. But
Lefty did?
he was a wonderful basketball player, fabulous basketball player for Our Lady of Victory. I'm glad you brought Lefty's name.
And here's one of the best catchers in the North Country, Bill Durnan.
I believe it.
He was
Never balked.
Yeah, I'd like this not to go on the record, but Bill was a good catcher.
He's thinking you're at the McDonald's this afternoon to saying that.
Shirley, what did you want to say?
Back in the day, in the 40s and 50s.
That's what we're talking about.
The highlight of the Lyon Mountain Miners was going to Mineville July 3rd to play Mineville under the lights. Man, they were good. Half of Lyon Mountain went.
At Lenny Field, yeah.
Yes, at Lenny's Field.
Lenny Field.
And that was the highlight, that was better than the 4th of July.
Yeah.
Everybody throw their kids in the car, pack a lunch, whatever, and go play Mineville under the lights.
You know, I hate to say it, but we'll probably never see days like that again.
Never, never.
You know that?
No, it's not community-minded anymore, for one thing.
I remember Bill telling me that they used to play under the lights in Bloomingdale.
Yes.
Am I correct?
Yeah, with their 100-watt bulbs.
Each person had a home one, right?
I never been to the ballpark.
My Uncle Clem managed Bloomingdale.
Really?
My Uncle Clem, yes, sir, my mother's brother.
I didn't know they had, I didn't know they
Yes,
played
they had
night
a.
baseball in
they had a
Bloomingdale?
Yeah, they did.
Beautiful game, beautiful team up there.
No
Excellent team. That Paul Smith's college kids would play with them
Where's
at
that?
Saranac Lake. Bloomingdale. Bloomingdale had
Yeah.
a real good team.
It's something you didn't know.
Gabriel got a good team.
Oh, they did, yeah, had a nice field, too.
Yeah, we're together. We're together.
Is it? I guess, I don't know if this whole program's gonna be about baseball or not, but there were other
Well, I heard
sports
you talk
here.
about fishing earlier. You're talking about ice fishing on Chateauguay
Oh,
Lake?
yeah.
Well, I own a place on Chateauguay Lake right now, and every winter, all the tournament, there's cars lined up for miles. They go down, they use my property to
Oh,
go
really?
on to go fishing, yeah.
$15 a piece. and-
25. I jumped it this year.
I remember tell you about the closest ball game that I ever saw.
I'm ready.
You never saw one any closer either.
Oh, okay.
Well, it's not Lime Mountain, but it's Osable Forks is playing Jay. And, Mr. Leduc, Cy Leduc from Standish,
Yeah?
he works with that. No, Cy Leduc.
Oh,
Father's all of the old.
oh, I guess so. Oh, yeah.
Well, anyway, he played for, actually it was Jersey, you know, you go across the bridge in Osable, they call that Jersey.
Jersey
And
Flats.
they went for 17 innings, and Mr. Leduc come up to bat, and there was no score. And he hit the ball so hard it broke in two. And the outfielder chased the ball, and he grabbed the ball and he threw it, and the ball got home just before Mr. Leduc did, and they tagged him out with the ball, and the umpire said, "You're out." And that wasn't the days when they could review the play by TV, you know. And so the umpires got together and they decided, no, he wasn't all out. The Jersey won by 1.5 to nothing, or 1/2 to nothing.
Yeah, it's too bad we're not at the end of the program, because that'd be a perfect spot to end.
I got a story about Carly.
You know what the initials BS stand for, Kenny?
Yeah, Bobby Charlin.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Carly Rounds, Bucko Badger asked Carly Rounds, he says, "Carly, what's the longest home run you ever hit?"
Oh, yeah, at the Legion.
Yeah, what did he say?
He said it's still going.
Still going, he said.
Bucker was mad. My memory in sports probably would have to be the highlight of my life is when my father brought us over. If I'm not mistaken, the game was played at Ellenburg. It was triple overtime with Neil Breen for Dannemora
Yes, it
against OLVA.
OLVA,
And who was their star basketball player over there?
Who are you talking about, Ellenberg or?
The game in Ellenburg was played on the neutral court.
Lefty Tessier, probably.
No,
Lefty?
Carl King?
Carl
No, Carl was
King.
much younger than me, no.
he died of a massive heart attack.
That was Carl King.
Billy Flynn.
Billy Flynn.
Billy Flynn and Neil Breen
That was in
against each
Ellenburg,
other, and
yeah.
that was in Ellenburg triple
Oh,
overtime.
what a ball game
That was one of the best basketball games I ever saw in
Neil
my life.
Breen shot a ball
Yes.
that was probably 35, 40
He
feet
shot
out.
both hands.
And he shot it both, yeah, a jump shot. And it went swish.
Oh, my
And they
God.
won the ball game. I'll
Yes.
never forget that.
Triple
Of course, I was
overtime.
from Dannemora, you know.
Neil
They-
Breen scored 50 points at Saranac one high school game.
Really? He's the best
50.
basketball player
Of course,
I've seen
a
around.
guy from Champlain, I forgot what his name was there, that used to score a lot, scored 100 points in a ball game once.
Come on.
High school game, no.
I can't, never even heard of
They
100
fed him the ball every time they got it, and he scored 100 points. That's what I was coaching.
Grew up, his backyard and my backyard adjoined, and I can remember when we were just little kids, we nailed I stole a basket, a potato basket. Remember they used to put potato?
Right, throw it in
And we
there.
nailed it up against Mr. Breen's house, in back of his house.
Been there, done that.
And we played basketball, and Mr. Breen come home from work. He worked at a prison, and he saw that. Oh, you talk about holler, huh?
All hell broke loose.
But that's what we used to use, was a potato basket for a basket. And Neil would shoot and shoot and shoot, and I'd go down and watch. He's older than I was. I used to go down and sit on a log and watch him shoot. He'd shoot for hours and
That's the
hours
best
and
basketball
hours.
player I've ever seen.
Huh? Oh, he's in Florida right now.
His health
Yeah,
isn't good,
he's
is it?
not, his health is not the greatest. He's had skin cancer, and he had cancer, but he's doing okay.
What did he end up doing in life?
He ended up, working in a prison. He was a psychiatrist, ended up being the superintendent of Lyon Mountain, I believe.
Really?
Yeah.
Another superintendent?
Yeah. I think he ended up being the superintendent of Lyon Mountain.
Yeah, he
He
did.
retired.
Yes, he did.
He retired.
Some people who are viewing this program might not even know that we ever had a jail here. There used to be, I tell the story so many times. Who was that walked around with us and did that show besides you that day? The Lyon Mountain Jail. He had been a guard, he was a guard there, and we walked past,
Bummer Owens.
oh, okay. Bummer. So we're walking down the first floor, and he's moving to the other side of the hallway, and I said, "What's the matter?" He said, "That was the principal's office when I went to school here."
What did he say was the matter?
He said, "That was the principal's office when I went to school here." So now they're trying to sell the building, I don't know.
Yeah, for $140,000.
I know. It's
amazing.
amazing. But we are in Lyon Mountain, and we're in the Lyon Mountain, the wonderful mining, Friends of Lyon Mountain Mining and Railroad Museum, doing our 4th program for Hometown Cable. Our little corner is back again, and we're having so much fun today. Any more really good baseball stories that anybody wants to tell?
I could tell them forever and ever, but some of them I don't want to tell.
Well, there's some, it's like,
I want to tell you another close game between All Sable and Black Brook.
I'm ready.
Yeah, well, this one went a long time too, and the same guy was up, but Mr. Siler Duke, he lived there, and he came to Standish after. But he got up to bat, and he said, this game's got to end pretty soon. I mean, we're getting dark here and so forth, and they didn't have any 100-watt bulbs like Bill had out at Gabriel's. And so Mr. Duke took a swing at the ball, and he hit, and it made a wicked sound, like, it sounds nice and solid when you hit a home run. But it went right at his feet. And when he hit it, he said, "Look at it, there it goes, there it goes, there it goes." And everybody was looking like that, and when it did, he dug a little hole and covered the ball up. He ran around the bases, and they were still looking in the outfield. And when the umpire said, "You're safe," he looked down, he said, "Gentlemen, here's your ball." 1-0.
Leave it to Ken Davies. Leave it to Ken. I'm so glad he decided to come over here and sit down. Well, a lot of strange things happen in the game of baseball. sometimes we tried to invent new rules along the way, and sometimes we weren't too successful. But any other weird, very strange things that happened that you can remember? Any good
I'll
triple?
tell you, one thing,
any-
one thing happened to me at ball practice here at Lyon Mountain. One night we were out, high school, we were out playing. I guess Dewey Letarte was the coach, he was the principal, we didn't, and he coached at that time. And we were walking around there in batting practice, and guy hit the ball and it went straight up. And I didn't see it go, but they said, heads up, heads up. And I happened to have the catcher's mitt. I put the catcher's mitt on top of my head and just stood there and the ball hit right on top of the mitt.
Got the ball.
Oh, I really should have held it this way. That's what you should have done.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
It happened to Bill too, but he forgot to put the mitt up.
Great stories, and great umpires and referees. Calvin and I have had the good fortune of sitting in quiet rooms where people couldn't escape and getting a bunch of referees and umpires together at different times. And their stories sometimes differ a little bit from the players. I don't know why that happens.
Yeah.
Every now and again, there's a slightly different slant to the story.
Did you ever hear of Cliff Martin?
Of course.
Yeah. I never saw him play, I don't think, but anyway, my father used to catch Cliff, and in the glove he used to put a beefsteak, to catch Cliff awful fast.
In case you guys don't remember, baseball gloves and catcher's mitts were a little different 50 years ago than they are
Like
now.
a sheet of paper.
And look at the early days of baseball and some of those funny little gloves that outfielders used. Can you imagine? That's like the kid in the outfield at a ball game a couple of weeks ago who caught a home run in his hat. A little kid, he's looking in there.
I saw that, yeah.
I remember when I was a kid, they used to have the greasy pig pole. Am I right? At the big ball diamond.
Used to have what?
Greasy pig pole.
The
Oh, yeah.
greasy pig pole. Everybody would try to climb it, whatever.
4th of July.
And then we'd have a game, right? The town team. I think it was all Sable in Lyon Mountain. My Uncle Duke was the umpire. Well, my father got mad at Duke because they called a strike, and they started to argue back and forth. And then Uncle Slavin come out to break it up. That's a long time ago.
Oh, my
Yeah,
goodness.
we used to have some fun.
And there was never a brawl and never a fight in a game, right?
Not in the game.
No, but
Not in the game.
In the parking lots, in the buses.
no comment.
Oh, I can remember, I would drop a few names here, except that they're still bigger than I am after all these years, so I'm not gonna go into some of those brawls back in the
Boy, he
olden
must be a
days.
pretty good sized person.
Yeah, pretty good size is right. Anyway, anybody else play other sports besides baseball? How many people played basketball? Yeah,
You played
well,
whatever sport was in season.
oh, yeah.
People used to ask me, what's your favorite sport? Depends on what season it was.
You know, that's the way it was. And we should mention also, you mentioned that sometimes the principal was the coach.
Yeah.
That very often happened in tiny high schools. I went to Moira High School, which hasn't existed for 50, 60 years. But, you had one guy, and he was a farmer, maybe a local farmer who was a good ball player. When he'd come in and coach every sport
Yeah.
for maybe, they probably made $100 a season, or maybe nothing, I don't know.
Maybe they did it for the fun a lot.
They did it for the fun. And then a lot of times, at least in the small towns, for other sports, you didn't have big crowds. Baseball always had big crowds.
One of the things that I recall as a young kid, starting out in 8th grade, you started playing sports in school. You could play in 8th grade when I was a kid. And they did away with it right after.
If you were old enough.
Yeah, if you were old enough, right. And I can remember playing track, soccer, basketball, and baseball, and got varsity letters in all 4 sports, which was a real accomplishment.
You don't see that anymore.
No,
for
you
sure.
don't. No, you don't even see them handing out letters anymore. But I got 16 of them
As slow as you are, you were in track?
Yep, oh yeah, I ran a 100-yard dash, the relay,
What they use for time?
the long jump, the high jump.
Oh, listen to Davies. What
Tell
they
him,
use for their calendar.
And you'd have to, in track, you had to run from, of course, we didn't only have like 10 guys on the track team, and they had like 40 events. So you each had 2 or 3 or 4 events that you were in, so you had to pick an event that didn't correspond with the one, so you'd have to run to the next event, and you'd run the 100-yard dash, and you'd be going, and then you had to do the long jump. You know, it was really something back then to see the sports, how they evolved, you know.
So basketball, few of you guys play basketball?
I think everybody probably.
Everybody?
Gordy, I played hockey.
I know you did. Hockey was and is still a great sport. I mean, the teams here in the North Country were wonderful. When my kids, and this is
You were
not.
there when it started.
Yeah, sure. These are
In the
not,
North Country, I mean.
in the North Country.
High school hockey.
Yeah, high school hockey
Yeah.
didn't
I
exist.
remember you going to board meetings and. so
Didn't
forth.
exist back in the early days, and
the only-
our kids decided they wanted
I know
to
it.
get a club hockey team in Saranac.
I know it.
And
You were at the board meeting, I
it was
remember that.
unheard of back in those
Yeah,
days.
right.
But it continued.
We
And there
still
were-
played hockey, though. I mean, I remember playing hockey on the furnace pond in Standish.
Yeah.
And they also played here at the church pond.
Well, it was,
The only one with professional hockey teams around, like the Canadians and so
yeah,
forth.
but it was outdoors. Kids played outdoors. My
Oh,
kids
yeah.
started at
That's only because they were locked
the
out.
best rink they had was
couldn't
Bailey
wait.
Avenue.
I couldn't wait for my father to finish his beer. We'd use the can for the,
There we go.
We used to walk on the cans.
yeah, you stomp it down.
Yeah.
But there was always a good rink in Dannemora. Where was the outdoor rink here in Lyon Mountain?
The pond, they used the pond.
Oh, they used the pond?
Well, also,
We built the rink in the 70s,
Up in the,
open the powerhouse.
Yeah, but you're so young. We're talking of dark ages here.
Even before that, the rink was in the swimming pool behind the school. There was a swimming pool behind the school, and in the winter, it was a skating rink.
No, come on.
Yeah, they put logs around the edge of it.
The best
They
skater,
had loudspeakers for the music.
Yeah.
I don't remember that one. That's
Yeah.
They
great.
had, like little dugouts for the kids to sit to change
Yeah, change their clothes.
their skates or
Well, they had
whatever.
girls on the left and boys on the right as you went in.
Yeah.
I think kids were tougher back then, don't you? I mean, kids who play inside now, they're good
you
hockey
didn't
players.
have computers where they could sit inside. You used to have to go outside
Well, you know,
to play, you know?
These fellas starting to start a fight around here.
Why?
Calling us girls.
They what? What about girls?
That's what they accused us of, being a girl.
Yeah, well, that's when the sissies started, when you started playing.
but there, this wouldn't be a good, not unless we mention John Hamilton. John Hamilton was a legend all by himself.
Somebody ought to write a book on
If somebody wrote a book on John Hamilton, they'd be a millionaire.
yeah.
And you know what?
I spent a lot of time with John.
Did you really?
Yeah, we used to go to Florida every year at Easter time with both families. He's a great guy. John would give you the shirt off his back, but
Very humble guy. I mean, considering all the things that he has done.
except during a ball game. Oh, yeah. I played him in Saranac one time, out in Saranac. And I didn't know the umpire made a call, it was controversial, and of course, John complained about it like he did it, when he bumped his head on the bookcase and stuff like that. Well, anyway, he said, unless that umpire reverses his call, I'm going home. I said, go ahead, John, take your team and go home. He didn't go, though.
You called his bluff, huh?
Yeah, did John ever tell you about the time that they were ahead in the ball game, but it was the last inning, they were running in second and third, and somebody hit a fly to the outfield, and Bernard Rowlett, go Bernard, and one of the Chase boys, I don't know which one it was, anyway,
That'd be Uncle Farley.
it could have been Farley. Farley was standing there waiting for the ball like that. And that would have been the third out, but they had runners on second and third, and of course they're running with 2 out. And Farley was waiting for the ball. and Big Ed Rollins come barreling and smashed right into him, and of course the ball fell. John was telling me that story, and I said, I suppose, John, you went up to him, and you said, that's okay, that could happen to anybody. You know, he made his brother-in-law, Donnie McCormick, walk home from Plattsburgh one time
Come on, boy.
after a high school game. He missed a bunt. He missed it twice. They put the bunt on, they had runners on second, third, and they put the suicide squeeze on. The guy come barreling down, he missed it, got tagged out. That's 2 out. John put it on again, he said he couldn't miss if he bunted. He missed it again, 3 out. They lost the game. They all got in the bus, and they after they started out the lot, John said the driver, or John was driving. John's, you know, he drives the buses. That's the pulled on the emergency brake, and he said to Donnie, "Get the hell out!" He said, "You played for the other team. Walk home." That was his brother-in-law, and he brought him here to Lyon Mountain to play ball from Keysville, because he was a fairly decent ball player, and he said, "Come live with us, and you can play on our team." Donnie McCormick.
Isn't that, you know, back in the old days, bus drivers had a little say over what happened compared to what they do now. And I've had some of my kids walk home 4 or 5 miles because they screwed up on the bus, and the bus driver stopped the bus and put them out in the road.
That's true. Talking about basketball, I had a coach by the name of Frank Ruane, and I was a freshman in high school on a JV team. And we were playing St. John's, and the score was 38-37, right? Timeout, we had the ball. So we go in a huddle, and I remember Frank says, all right, he says, here's the play. Kuchar, he says, I want you to get that ball. He said, off the rebound, when it comes down, when they shoot, if they don't make it, and he said, I want you to get it down the other end. When I get down the other end, he says, I don't want you shooting the ball. And I said, well, why not? He says, because it's going to hit the backboard and go to the other end, they're going to win. I'll never forget that. Yeah, he wouldn't let me shoot. But he said,
Did you guys ever have the bus break down when you're on your way to a ball game?
Yeah, we did.
Those old buses and vans, and you got there whatever way you could.
yeah, I did.
What about it, Bill?
I don't want to tell you who's driving.
You were driving?
Not me. You hit the bridge coming across the Saranac River.
Oh, no!
Oh, yeah. The side of that bus was scarfed.
Really?
Oh, boy.
It was Zig Witherell was the driver.
Who was?
Zig Witherell, remember him?
Zig Owens.
Huh?
Owens.
Big Owens?
Owens from the lake. He lived in China.
Surely helps them whenever she
Any
can.
related to Wally? Remember Wally Owens?
Maybe it was Wally.
Oh, yeah, I remember him.
Yeah.
Talk about, he was,
Wally was a janitor.
this guy that was in charge of the bus when this happened didn't last very long after he hit the bridge.
When I was in high school, there was gas rationing. We didn't have a bus. Anybody that had the stamps would give them the stamps and buy gas, you know, gas stamps, and drive their own car. We used to drive Klain's car. What's his name? Mr. Klain. No, Joe's father. Angus Klain. Used to drive Angus Klain's car, and because Joe played on the team too, and then Joe went to St. John's after that. But also we drove Dewey Latart's car, the coach and principal. But I was old enough at the time I could drive. I drove one of the cars, and Dewey drove the other, and we put the whole team in 2 cars.
Isn't that
Gas rationing, you know.
There was a lot of rationing, and I still got my
Me too.
rationing book.
You do?
I still got some of the little
You can
coupons and the stamps.
you can get me for that now. Yeah.
I can. The book itself's probably worth $100 now.
The meat's old.
It's old, Kenneth.
So's the meat.
Yeah.
I can remember a baseball game. You probably will never see it again. Bobby Sharla was batting.
Young
and
Bobby?
Young Bobby Sharla. My brother Bugs got up, he hit a home run. Francis Tuesday hit a home run. Bobby Shanley hit a home run. 3 right in a row, right in Fort Covington.
Yeah.
And then Bobby Shanley got up again. He hit the home run right-handed, and he was a switch hitter. And he got up again, and he hit a home run left-handed,
Yeah.
back to back.
He's my son-in-law.
Never seen that happen before.
Where are they playing? Franklin County's old ladies' home?
Fort Covington, and they were good.
Remember the old Fort Covington School? Did you ever play football in Fort Covington?
No, never played football.
Oh, we played six-man football in high
Yeah.
school, but the water down there was, we used to call it rotten eggs. For the whole football game, couldn't take a drink, because I just,
Rotten eggs.
oh, you know, that's
That
sulfur
bad,
water.
eh?
You ever go to Vermont to play football in six-man?
Oh, no, never Vermont, no.
We had six-man here too.
Oh, you did? I did not know
Yeah,
that.
Lyon Mountain had a six-man football team.
Well, people don't realize today why we had to have six-man football. We didn't have very big schools.
Didn't have
back in
12
the
kids,
day.
12 boys in high school.
We used to dress, always dress 2 or 3 7th and 8th graders so we could have 11 men.
Yeah,
on
we
the
used to go
bench.
to Enosburg Falls, as far away as that, to play football.
Come on.
Yeah. You know where Enosburg
Oh, of
Falls is?
course.
Halfway across Vermont.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Kenneth, I'm so glad you decided to sit down here with us.
Yeah, I remember some of the players, Clarence Lawrence played. I played. I know the only 4 other people on the first.
Oh, yeah. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Life was a little bit different in Lyon Mountain in the 1940s than it is now, right?
Yeah, sports was everything.
Well, in some households, sport is everything. We're going to pause for just a moment and continue this wonderful program from the Lyon Mountain Museum. We're back again. Some of the best stories are off the microphone here. This has been so much fun. Before I forget it, Shirley wanted to tell you how you got to play ball up here.
Hell, Bill got to play.
How Bill got to play
in the
ball.
family.
Bill was riding the pine for maybe a few years.
Anybody
and-
doesn't know what riding the pine is, I still got slivers. Go ahead.
But anyways, he always said, in order to play town team baseball for Lyon Mountain, is you had to be a Toloski, a Kowalski, or a Chase. So what did he decide to do? Married a Chase. Here I am, 55 years later.
That's amazing and wonderful.
Yeah, you know about riding the pine there, it reminds me of, we used to have a guy on our basketball team that the coach, if it was like the last minute of the game he went in, he'd put him in the last minute, that would be about it. He sat the bench all the time, and so you'd know the game was almost over when he went in. Well, anyway, the coach asked him one night, he said his name, he said, suppose that if it was getting towards the end of the game here, no, he said, suppose during the game, the guy you're on defense, and the guy come dribbling down towards you and was trying to fake it to the inside and was going to the outside. He said, what would you do? He said, I'd slide down the bench so I could see better.
Very good. Slide down to the bench.
Has anybody ever, besides Bob Garrow, I mean, has anybody ever written some of these stories down in book form? Has anybody in Lyon Mountain ever written a book about their own ball-playing days or anything? I think that's why it's so important for Calvin and I. But it's important, I
Larry
think.
Gooley's got some books out.
Well, Larry, you know, I'm glad you mentioned that, because Larry Gooley is a dear friend of ours.
He's a good friend of mine.
Larry Gooley loves Lyon Mountain.
Yes.
He's done a lot toward helping this museum get
Yes, Larry
underway. Larry Gooley is a great writer and publisher and editor, and he's written a lot about this museum, about the history of Lyon Mountain, and we salute him because he's a dear friend.
Yeah, very
Every
nice.
time he writes a new book, we sit down with him, Calvin and I, down in his basement and record a program. So it's good when people who do learn how to write, and they have stories, and they go back and write about their hometowns. I kind of like that.
Yeah, Larry's a good man.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Personal friend of
So-
mine.
Did you talk to anything at all about the mines used to hire people to work just because they could play ball? Did you talk anything about that?
I don't know nothing about
You know what, I've never mentioned that. We've done shows about mining, but
Yeah.
not about hiring them.
They used to hire people just because they could play ball.
Really?
And one of them was there's nobody here, I guess. Bob Levine's father, Noel Levine, Noel pitched. And of course, they hired Bill Hafer to teach here, because Bill Hafer was a hell of a good pitcher. John Miner worked at the mines. John was a good pitcher.
Major leaguer.
Yeah, John.
Weiner was a major leaguer after a
I
while.
know, yeah, he was. He went with the Yankees.
Kenny, that's a good point. I never would have thought about that, but
Baseball was
I can
everything,
understand
and
it.
They'd scout the area. The guy was good, they'd offer him a job. Come to live in Lyon Mountain and play ball.
Was Johnny Cooks from Malone?
I don't know. I don't know.
Bill, was Johnny Cooks from Malone? Johnny Cooks for the Yankees, was he from Malone?
He played for Malone.
He played for Malone, okay.
You know, I was at a ball game in Fort Myers a couple of years ago in spring training, and I sat with Smokey Joe Wood's son.
Did you really?
Yeah, and
Oh,
we
my.
got to talking about baseball, and he had played here in Lyon Mountain.
Think about
Smokey
that.
Joe Wood's son. And he told me he was such a thing, he traveled around with his father. You know, that was around in the teens, the 19, Smokey Joe, I guess, was great around 1916. And he said he met people, big-time people, like even met Babe Ruth.
Wow, that's an honor.
Yeah, I sat right near him in the ball game.
Oh, what fun that, I wish I'd had the recorder going down there.
Yeah, I guess so, that was
Oh,
nice.
my goodness.
Yeah,
Well, you know, it's important for us to make sure that Lyon Mountain stays on the map. That's why we love to come up here and interview people and just drive around and drive up on top of the pile and look down and see what would happen to you if you ever fell off the side,
Yeah.
and figure out how that pile got up there. And all those wonderful mining days. But I want our audience to know, if you're watching it here in the North Country elsewhere, that a lot of people who don't live here and never lived here know about Lyon Mountain, because
know.
it's been on the world map
Yeah.
because of its mining. It was the best iron ore in the world, right, at the time?
Swedish and this, yeah.
Yeah, and because of its great sports teams. And how many ball players from here did make the major leagues? I mean, we've mentioned a few.
How many, Bill?
Tommy Kudlowski came as close as anybody to Iron Mouse.
Especially he made the minor leagues.
I was in New York one time at a convention, and I rode the elevator down with Ralph Houck, and he
Oh, did you?
and he was the manager of the Yankees at the time.
Yeah.
And was it John Hamilton? And of course, John had Tommy Kowalski.
Yeah.
And
How about the Clarence Benjamin?
well, anyway, John said to Ralph Houck, "What about Tommy Kowalski?" And Ralph Houck said, "You know, he has the best potential of any catcher I've ever seen." He was just trying.
That's saying a lot in those days.
It was, yeah, yeah.
Clarence went to the Red Sox. Minor league, Red Sox.
Nicholas Teleski.
Just imagine
Pickles, there's a perfect example, yeah.
Just imagine if those opportunities were available when Johnny and Kowalski and Bill Kowalski played.
Telesky.
And Cliff Martin and Archie
Oh,
Telesky.
my God, Archie.
They just weren't available at that time, you know? Nobody was looking at these people.
Communication was different back in
Yeah.
those days. If a scout ever came to your school, you almost had a heart attack.
Oh, yeah.
Marty, there's one other ball player you haven't mentioned.
It's about time we heard from you again.
Red DeBrey.
Oh, my
Red, Burnell.
Yeah.
Red Burnell.
Yeah.
He played third base for Morrisonville.
Yeah.
Red was a good ball player.
I remember him and,
So was the other.
him and Lefty Texier got paid to play for Morrisonville. Back in them days.
Yeah.
You know, you wonder how these guys got as good as they got, playing in bumpy fields,
Yeah, with no
with chicken wire backstops.
And-
I mean, think about it.
And no coaching or guidance or
No.
anything, they just developed
You
on their
learned
own.
it, you didn't
they
go
did.
through a system, and they didn't start having you playing catch when you were 3 years old.
So they didn't
You learned by the
learn
seat of
more
your,
of 'em.
yeah. Well, that's a good point, Ken, that's a great point. When you guys played ball, did any coach ever say, boy, you've thrown 89 pitches, I think that's probably enough. 80,
If you quit throwing, you didn't play anymore.
well, I've known guys, and maybe you have too, who were so good in high school or in a town team that they could pitch a doubleheader.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
They did, some of them.
Yeah.
Some of them pitched a doubleheader. Can you
Scott
imagine that
Baker.
now?
Scott Baker.
Perfect example.
Well, Scott Baker threw
21 innings.
21 innings up in Saranac. He was great.
And won the game.
And he's still playing town team ball.
Oh,
Yeah, and he
come
won the game. He's playing for Billy.
Yeah.
There's one other guy that pitched the doubleheader, Bill LaPlante
Oh, yeah.
from Morrisonville.
Bill was my third baseman on the high school team. Played third base.
I got some photographs that even Bob Garrett doesn't have of the old Morrisonville teams way back in the teens,
Yeah.
in the 20s. And they're great. Well, I want to tell people that we are at the Lyon Mountain Museum, the Mining and Railroad Museum. The display is on the sports of the mountains. And how long is this display going to be up? Does anybody know, Bill? Does anybody know? How long is, huh?
Closing date.
Until closing date in October. So if you haven't seen it, you may not get a chance to see every picture here today.
It won't be here
Please,
next year.
please come up here and take a look at it. Talk to these old guys. See what the old skis looked like. See what,
gonna be up for?
to the bobsledding.
J.R. Lenny, bobsled.
Of course, bobsledding, another great winter sport.
Then they'll change something else.
They leave it for 2 years. And not only that, tell them it's free. They don't cost nothing here to come and look at it. It's free.
It's free to get in, but you have to pay to get out.
I can never top these stories. I've known Ken Davies for a long
You have
time.
a donation box if you want to throw something in it, but it don't cost you anything to
There's
come
two
here.
big miners right by the door.
If you don't donate, you're in trouble.
Another thing, Gordy, the Lime Mountain Miners, we used to park from the dugout all the way around. In those days, we didn't have a fence. It was just a wide open field out there. And we used to, my grandmother Chase used to park right next to the Lime Mountain Miners dugout. And from there was Mrs. Ducharme. I don't remember her first name, but she never, ever missed a game. Her daughters used to drive the car down and park it, so she could be right next to the dugout, and they'd bring her down, and of course, she'd sit in the car and watch the game. And then, as the game went on, and it was a close game, say tied or 3-2, everybody would start tooting their horns for the opposite team. When the
don't you
pitcher,
love it? I
when the
remember
pitcher,
that.
when the pitcher, yes, to rattle the pitcher from the
he'd get
opposing
rattled.
team.
Oh, they
Yes.
did get rattled.
Oh, yes, oh, yes. My grandmother Chase would start tooting her horn, and it went all the way around the field. Everybody was tooting their horn to rattle the
In
pitcher.
fact, the team used to bother the other team by yelling too, and
Oh,
and
yeah.
hollering at the pitcher.
Way different than it is now. where
That's
they
a
make-
pavilion. The men would sit under there, or the bandstand.
Holler,
Yes, yes.
yeah. You know, my father told me about talking about the crowds there. He said that well, of course, the ball field used to be up on Sweden there where the pile is now. That
really?
used to be the ball field.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Pictures of
No
that.
kidding.
I have to. Well, anyway, they played, and all the local people would come to watch the game, but there wasn't any bleachers or anything. Most of the time they stood, and they'd have a line right down the first base line, and a little ways away from third, home first, home third, and that was a solid line of spectators, mostly locals. And Dad said that if you had a pop-up or something that went over tight towards the crowd, if it was a visiting team that did the pop-up, the third baseman come over, or one of the players, that line would open right up and the player would go right there and catch it. If it was a home team that made the pop-up, they didn't get through the line.
Well, I learned something today. I didn't know the ball field was up there.
That was right up by by where the fan pile is now.
When did they build the bleachers here? Does anybody remember?
Down here?
Yeah.
I think J.R. Lenny told him to do it.
Yeah, it was
That's why they're here.
It was a Republic Steel built the field and built the bleacher. It was the nicest field in the North
Oh,
Country.
of course it was.
Major League Special
Yeah.
Still
down
is.
there.
Yeah.
The only trouble with the field was, it was always ore sand, you never could get any grass to grow on it. But that was a good field, but grass I think is a little better.
How was it sliding? Was it tough to slide on that?
Pretty hard on your rear end.
Imagine it was. Uniforms
Don't
changed
slide
a
if
lot.
you hit home runs.
They had
Yeah, I
cinders, they had cinders all around. And you slide into those cinders, you'd get a raspberry.
You know,
Big
having-
time.
Playing
We
ball,
wear sliding pads, I don't know if they do that anymore.
playing ball in a mining town is a little different than any other. That's why these stories are so unique. That's why I'm glad Kenny came here to tell us that they hired minors who could play ball.
We see that one nice thing about this is as it getting old isn't the greatest, but when you're getting old, finally you come to a place where there's nobody your age and you can say anything you want to say.
I know you
They
can
can't
anyway.
contradict you.
I love it. I love it. There are a million memories here in Lyon Mountain. We haven't covered all the winter sports. We touched on hockey. I don't know if they ever did any curling up here in the wintertime. Do anybody remember that?
Saranac Lake's the closest I know.
Saranac Lake did a lot of curling. I know curling, when they first invented television,
Yeah.
it seemed like in the wintertime, that's the only thing you could watch on television was, they didn't even do hockey back in those days. They did a lot of curling,
Well,
but you
take
could
that
do it
back.
with one camera.
Take that back because there was a beauty shop down here and they did a lot of curling in there.
Oh, boy, oh, boy, oh, boy. It was, I imagine,
Bill, what kind of curling?
I would imagine, and I'm going to stand up for one moment and move over here. Bill, come here. Whose idea was it to do sports in this museum? Was that your idea?
No, look, I told you, I just became president, what was it? April, maybe?
You just don't want them to blame anything on you that happens up
Well,
here.
that was before the committee, they decided to take that on, before I took on the office of president.
Well, my question would be, how hard was it to get all this memorabilia? It's hard to get pictures from people.
Well, we're always looking for memorabilia, and anybody's got any out there, we'll take it on.
That's a good point. A lot of people have old photographs, maybe even old trophies at home on a shelf or in the basement or in a box in the attic or somewhere. And if they'd like to have other people share that, bring the stuff up here to the
Right.
museum.
Every Wednesday and Saturday.
Every
yeah.
Wednesday and Saturday from 10 to 2, from now until the weekend before Columbus Day. Yeah, we know. But it's very, very important to pay attention to little museums like this and to let people know that this is a community effort. This is not something that one person can do.
And the community stretches out and beyond Lyon Mountain.
Oh, sure.
That's involved in this.
Chateaugay.
Chateaugay, there's Standish, Saranac, Dannemora.
Somebody has an idea. It takes a nucleus of 1 or 2 or 3 people, not just ball players, but people who are interested in their hometown. Some people even who moved here and loved it and stayed here, who say, I think we could make a museum out of that old train station up there. And it doesn't happen just like this. There was a big struggle after 2000, right? Look how long it took to raise some money and get started, and people volunteering and painting and putting floors down on the inside and trying to rehab this building. I mentioned before that Calvin and I have been in a lot of train stations that people would love to turn into museums, and the project stopped because the interest wanes. You get 10 people, 15 people, 100 people interested, and 6 months later, they're doing something else. So to have this Friends of Lyon Mountain Mining and Railroad Museum, and now Sports Memorabilia Museum, to be so successful as it is, as we record this on June 19th in 2013, is a tribute to everybody, including all these guys who played ball in this area, who grew up playing sports in the North Country, and who still remember those stories with a smile and good humor. And all of us have lived long enough to go through bad times as well as the good times. We've had family tragedies, we've had a lot of things happen, and when you get to be our age, you lose a lot of your friends. Hey, Frenchie, we outlived many of our friends.
Well, by looking at a lot of these pictures here, and you look at them, there's pictures here that all the people in that picture are gone.
Yeah.
It's
an amazing thing to me, and I don't know if it's the mountain air or what it is, but as you know, I graduated from the old Moira High School, which was built before the Civil War, and it's been gone since centralization in the mid-50s. But every one of the members of my senior class are still alive. Wow. tiny little class, but I don't know, 11 or 13, I forget.
Yeah. We had 11 in our class.
Yeah,
And I
think that's
remember
what
playing,
had.
I remember playing basketball at Mariah High School.
Yeah. And these little schools had great ball teams. Just, Lefty Langelier was the guy who did all of our coaching back in the late 40s and early 50s in high school. And when he played high school basketball, nobody could beat him. They play against Clarkson. And they play against the St. Lawrence freshmen and beat them. Sometimes you get a bunch of guys together who are just good ball players, baseball players, just because it must be bred in, right?
Yeah.
It's got to be built in. It's got to be genetic. I think it's in the genes. Anybody got any other stories before we begin to wrap it up here? You guys are terrific. I'm so happy you came here today.
There was one time that the baseball became so popular in Lyon Mountain, they thought that night baseball might replace sex.
I had no idea where he was going. And the only reason it didn't is because they only had 100-watt bulbs, right, Kevin?
You know why they're laughing so hard? Because they were part of that scheme.
Yeah, I know.
I'll tell you what,
What?
if you were a good baseball player, you come here, you got a job. But if you weren't a baseball player, you didn't get no job here.
Kenny said that before, and it's something that hadn't computed with me until we came here today to talk about
Yeah,
it.
that's why they had fellas like Steve Peake and Hubble and everything else come here to
Yeah,
play.
Steve Peake pitched for the Yankees.
Yeah,
Steve
yeah.
Peake.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Well, if you didn't know about Lyon Mountain baseball and about the miners and about all the other stuff, before we started this program today, you do now.
There's one thing I want to say before you wrap it up. I don't think anybody, they talked about buses. Bus trip when I was playing ball when I was a kid. The bus ride home, if you won the game, was one of the highlights of the day. Because
Boy,
the
you're
second,
bringing back all these floods of memories here.
the second railroad crossing, we'd start,
We are the miners.
we'd start to cheer, "We are the miners," and "Mighty, mighty miners," and then when we drove the bus around town, and we yelled, "We won."
We won.
Not in my time. That wasn't in my time. My time, the road back was a lot of fun, but it's because you're sitting with the cheerleaders.
I don't know how we survived before Kenny got here to sit down with us. Do you?
I have a little story.
Okay, Shirley, I'm coming.
It was,
Come on over here with me.
it was, in the 70s. Lyon Mountain Pee-wees. Frenchie's son, Bernard, had the team prior to this summer. And what happened was, with Bernard, he couldn't coach because he had a job, forestry or something, and the kids needed a coach. So anyways, they come to the house, the boys, and these are the Pee-wee boys, are what, 12, 13, and they were moping around, couldn't find a coach to coach the team. So I says, okay, guys, I says, if you can't get anybody, I'll coach the team. So sure enough, I ended up coaching the boys' Pee-wee team.
Did you really?
Yes, I did. So anyways, I had practice down behind the school, and I can't tell you, I had over 20-some kids. So, of course, I took their names down, yada, yada. So I come home and I said to Bill, I said, Bill, I don't know what I'm going to do. I have all these boys, and you can only play nine players. So anyways, Bill says, I'll take care of it. So the next practice, Bill comes to the practice. And what does he do? But he has them sprint, he has them run, he has them sliding, all the things that has to do with baseball. So anyways, as we kept practicing, you could see this kid take off, that one get on the bike and go home, that one get on the bike and go home. So finally I ended up with maybe 13 or 14 players. So anyways, we started, this is the county summer program. So our first game was in Peru. And Peru in our days was the team to beat. So sure enough, we started playing, and the kids on the Peru team started laughing at my ball players, at my boys. So anyways, one of the Jutland boys come over and said, Mrs. Durnan, they're laughing at us because we got a woman coach. He says, you know what, we'll show them. Sure enough, we beat them 4-5, or anyways, I had them running, and sure, we beat them. It was a good score. So anyways, we ended up undefeated that season. And the goal in those days was Bailey Avenue, playing under the lights. So sure enough, my Pee Wee team went to Bailey Avenue, played under the lights. We played Altona for the championship game. We beat Altona 3-2. But the highlight of the game was Altona was at bat, and this kid from Altona hit a long fly ball in the outfield. Francis Escavich was out there. I said, oh my God, Francis, please catch the ball, please catch that ball. Oh, lo and behold, Francis puts his glove up, catches the ball. We beat Altona 3-2, county champions.
Isn't that perfect?
So,
What a good way to end the show here today.
Yes, and I was the female coach, and we showed them we could do it.
How many other female coaches were there?
I was the only one.
There you go.
Yes.
Just want to let people know.
Yes, yes,
We know when we're supposed to bow down, Shirley.
yes.
We know that.
And I coached for a couple of years after.
Oh, that's
Yes,
wonderful.
yes.
Let me get over next to Billy here.
Okay, we're wrapping this up.
It's come time to wrap up the show. We're gonna have a little,
You told me I had to study.
well, you don't have to study. This is me you're talking with. I just want people to know that sports in the mountains include a lot of things besides baseball. We get a bunch of old baseball players together, and we're going to tell baseball stories. I have to say that Hometown Cable has recordings done by Bob Venn, I think, in years gone by with old baseball players in Lyon Mountain, right, Calvin? Probably from the 90s. I can't remember when.
With the minors, I did a show with the ball players. With the ball players.
Yeah, with the ball players. But anyway, there are a lot of sports in the mountains. We've seen fishing and ice fishing and lots of other things right here. The men's waiting room doesn't count.
No,
But there are a lot of other sports and wonderful, great photographs all the way around here.
we've got baseball, basketball, winter sports, hunting camps, on display is the bobsled also. Actually, what I remember myself as a kid, everything was seasonal type of thing.
Of
You just
course.
didn't expertise on anything.
Yeah, you
In the
did
winter,
it.
you played hockey, you skated on the ponds. Lyon Mountain, one time in the late 70s, early 80s, had an indoor hockey rink in the powerhouse.
I didn't know. Come on.
Yes.
Did you play it indoors?
Yeah, we played, it was an indoor rink, but it was narrow, but it was long. It's the old powerhouse building that was
I
converted
did
in.
not know
And
that.
actually, it's over there, there's, under winter sports is, you can come up and read about the powerhouse and the indoor hockey rink. And
Oh,
actually,
that's-
there was the temperature inside that building maintained a cold temperature. It really held the cold inside the building, to the point where we had ice inside the building longer than, even into the spring. Type-
So it wasn't necessarily that warm inside the building.
No,
Like an ice house.
It was like an ice house, and I've been in a lot of rinks like that, including Saranac Lake,
but there was no refrigeration or nothing.
Yeah,
It
you
just,
didn't need it. Just because you had a cover over it and walls didn't mean it was warmer inside. Oh, yeah, I was pretty happy when they built the Crete, and then when they built the field house in Plattsburgh. That's great, because my kids started playing hockey before there were indoor rinks. Ken Davies remembers when we petitioned the school board to get a club team up in Saranac, and my youngest son Kirk went to St. John's just so he could play hockey. The other kids played hockey there, my Baker boys and little kids in Saranac for a while.
what year did your son graduate from St. John's?
Oh, my goodness, who knows? He's going to be 47 years old
Oh, so he's,
in August, so he's the youngest of all of our,
he played under Gary Ryan then.
oh, of course, for all those years, yep, for sure.
Yeah, Gary Ryan was very instrumental in getting youth hockey going right here in this community.
Absolutely. Good guy, great guy. I want to thank you for allowing us to come up here with the hometown cable cameras. We
Oh,
really,
you're always
really
welcome.
have enjoyed it here. We want to encourage people to become members and to become participants in one way or another in the future of sports and this great museum. So join the friends, find out how to do it, pay attention. Call this gentleman right here at his home phone or stop in anytime on a Wednesday or a Saturday
Right.
between the hours of 10 and 2, the Lyon Mountain, Friends of Lyon Mountain.
There is a
Mining.
website, too.
And there's a website, and there are email places and lots of good stuff. And Facebook too, yeah.
Facebook.
Facebook.
The
yeah.
museum's on Facebook?
So many people, well,
So you got-
Calvin's got at least three things around on Hometown Cable, hometowncablenetwork.com, and a lot of the things get put on Facebook that we do, just so all of our thousands of friends around the world get to see what happens. So this isn't just a local program anymore. If you want to see this program, go right on the internet at hometowncablenetwork.com.
Oh, and we have meetings, the second Thursday of the month.
That's a good point. Where?
Right here at the museum,
Certain-
6:30 at night, second Thursday of the month.
Okay.
So it'll be, July 11th is our next meeting, because the 4th is on a Thursday this year, that's why I knew.
We're doing this program on June 19th. I have no idea when it'll be aired. Hopefully, it'll be aired many times in the future. I hope it inspires people to go in their attics or their cubby holes or drawers and find out some memorabilia. Any kind of historical memorabilia from this area, you'd love to have it, right?
That's correct, and not necessarily Lyon Mountain, just like you said, from this area, Chattagay, Dannemora, Shazy Lake, Chattagay Lake.
Well, long live the old D&H station here in Lyon Mountain, that's for sure. We've made a lot of memories. We might have even told a tall tale or two in the course of this. Ken's hiding over in the corner there. But it's been a pleasure seeing all of you. Right, French?
But before you close, they got a baseball player out there that's got a Standish baseball uniform on. Would be probably nice if you could take a picture of it.
Well, we'll just sneak out there and do that. Tell me about that uniform,
The
Ken.
uniform belonged to Louis Powers from Standish, and I inherited it and I gave it to the museum, and we do have pictures of the team with that uniform on in the museum.
What years would that be?
Oh, God, I would think it's around 1930 or
Really?
before.
Isn't that truly amazing? I hate to go home from a show like this. It's been so much fun seeing all of you guys, Frenchie, Kenny,
And so much untold, too.
so much untold. Maybe this will spark the conversation and it will continue on and on. Again, we thank all of our viewers for your comments and suggestions. We want to urge those individuals who can afford it and who appreciate what Calvin and I have done for all these years, making out a check, a generous check, and send it to Hometown Cable in care of Calvin Castine, Ridge Road in Champlain. If you're a business or an organization and you can put a little more money in the pot so we can continue this program, please do that today and send your check in so we can continue this program far, far into the future. And who knows where we're going to